beginning to run wild.
Hello once again, everyone. We're here, Geek Syndicate, doing our Doctor Who Flux reviews. This is Chapter 3 of Flux, Once Upon Time. I'm here. I've just realised, actually, that I've always been introducing you, B, and I've never actually introduced myself to anyone. So we might have some people going, who the hell is that moron who keeps talking and not introducing himself?
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So I'm Ant, or Wedged Up on the internet in general, and I'm here as ever with podcast overlord Mr. Barry Nugent. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm doing very well. Looking forward to actually getting into this one. This was an interesting one.
Interesting is a good word for this. It is, yeah. Well, let's crack on. I'll just do the blurb and then we'll get straight into it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the old blurby. Time is beginning to run wild. On a planet that shouldn't exist, in the aftermath of apocalypse, the Doctor, Dan, Yaz and Vinda face a battle to survive. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So
I watched this morning, so it's still quite fresh in my mind. I have to say that I really enjoyed it again.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of jumping around and a lot of story being thrown at you, and I kind of enjoy all of that. I did. And again, I think what was really interesting is I found that when the Doctor was being the fugitive Doctor, I kept saying that's the Doctor I wanted to see.
Yeah, I must admit there were bits on that where, I mean, it was great to see Joe Martin. And I kind of thought, well, when it kind of like became apparent that they were in memories all the past, I thought, oh, this is going to be like Joe Martin era. I thought, because that's the only one we've seen from before, kind of thing. And then it turned out it was. And I kept thinking, I wish they'd just have Joe Martin there and like Jodie almost watching it.
Yes, sorry, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that was my only thing with it. I mean, it was great to see, Jodie having a bit of oomph again, especially after last week kind of thing. But this was very much, it was kind of like, almost uncomfortable because you're so used to the Doctor solving things like I said last week without resorting to violence and stuff. And yet the plan here was basically bomb the building, get in, trick people. Yeah, we're going to sacrifice a few million lives, but whatever, we'll get the job done, sort of thing.
Yeah,
like as a commando raid sort of thing, and that's a little bit kind of like for like the Doctor that we've been following since 1963. However, fit perfectly with what we'd seen of the what do we call it? Was it the Angry Doctor we called it, wasn't it, for a while?
Yeah.
Of Joe Martin's Doctor. So I did really like all that.
Yeah, but also as well, I mean, when you say that, but then, and to be fair, we didn't see, I know there's the big finish stuff, but we get a sense that, when you think about the War Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the moment.
Yeah, he was getting up to all sorts. Yeah, exactly. And this is, let's not forget that although they've kind of done a soft retcon of it, this sort of reboot series, we can't even call it this New Who, which I don't even know if you can even call it that anymore, started off with the revelation that it was the Doctor that had effectively destroyed two races.
True, that is true.
So I don't think it's much of a stretch.
No,
but I also I 100% agree with you that I would have rathered the Doctor been witnessing the memory and her seeing like Joe Martin playing the Doctor. I agree.
I guess the thing with that is, I suppose it's like there's not a lot for Jodie to do in that scenario, and it is, it's her show,
Yeah, exactly. So
I can completely see why, and the bits where it was flickering between the two were, gave you little hints of that kind of thing. What could have been something. So that's all cool. Yeah, from my point of view, my main takeaway from it was, like you said, there was a lot in there. I did think initially, oh my God, they're throwing another character into the mix at this stage because it started off with Belle, but actually. I really liked her, sort of like the scenes we had with her and her narration and stuff, but also, which is odd because I don't normally like narration, but also it did give you that perspective into the wider universe, rather than it being just like the fear we had with episode 1 was it was going to just be, oh great, we're stuck on Earth now behind this shield of Lupari ships or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not doing that, and you did get that feel of everything's going to hell, and there are 3 intergalactic empires that are just trying to basically make the most of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I thought was interesting was when you watched the first episode and you saw the Flux in effect, the impression that it kind of gave was there was nothing left once the Flux came through.
Yeah, I kind of did think that. It must be like selective in which planets it just devours.
Or maybe it doesn't devour entire planets, because the impression it certainly would, and especially as the way it ended with, is it Vinder?
Yeah, Vinder, yeah.
When they're taken back to like his home planet and it's been laid waste. Well, they were like, yeah, the Flux has been through. But then, like I said, the impression that you got in the first episode was that if the Flux came through, it just wiped the planet out of existence.
Yeah, that's certainly what it looked like. It did look like that, almost like Crisis on Infinite Earth kind of.
Yeah.
You gone rather than you just devastated kind of thing.
Yeah. So I kind of, I went with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Same with me, to be fair. There was a couple of other moments that I kind of had to just go with, but we'll probably get to them in a bit.
I liked Belle, and I'm always up for like having a character who's capable, can take care of himself, and and I did like the little face off with the Cybermen. I even didn't mind the fact that they had Cybermen and Daleks in there. They were used well because they were used more as background.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is the Dalek episode. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a case of it was literally that thing of the universe or the galaxy or wherever she was traveling through was in these three sort of like the Sontarans, which they didn't need to show because we've seen them. The Daleks have got areas and they're trying to just do a power grab, and so the Cybermen sort of thing. Although that does bring me on to one of my little niggles, which was that the Cybermen were trying to assume control and take over. But that's not what Cybermen do. Cybermen are just trying to survive, and in their minds they're doing the best for people by converting them and giving them the best chance to survive. Which you think with what's happening with the Flux, it makes perfect logical sense, right? To survive, improve yourself, become a Cyberman.
There's one way to look at it.
from their point of view,
Yeah.
They're upgrading people to have a better chance to survive. So their whole survival ethos, which the new series seems to have forgotten about, that's what the Cybermen were about. They became Cybermen to survive. And the whole thing is they want to. In their head, it is illogical for people to stay as being purely organic beings. So they are making everyone else into Cybermen sort of thing. But again, I say I love that design and the shot of them coming down the hall and Belle just like taking them out with the little Nerf guns and stuff. I really like that.
Yeah.
I thought they did drop a bit easy, but you know what? I don't have a futuristic space race, so I don't know how powerful that thing is.
Yeah, I just worked on the basis that obviously maybe it's a cyber ray.
Yeah, exactly. She's got the tools for the job, and let's face it, she's just come from planets full of Daleks, so she can hold her own, Yeah. So yeah, no, I say I like that, and like you say, I like the fact that they were almost just there as just indicators of things being bad, basically.
Yeah.
And like you say, that little face off she had with the one that she kind of shot at the end, and that it was good. It was good. It was a good little interaction, and as I say, I really liked her as a character. Now I did have to look elsewhere because it was something I want to talk about. So the BBC cast and crew page for this Flux is terrible. So normally, like in previous series, it's been really good, and I could tell you who played everyone. With these, they've got like 3 characters listed, and considering this was one that introduced Belle and she was in for probably 30-40% of the episode, not listed. Carvanista, who was in it for a flash through, that's Space Bungle, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So Space Bungle in there literally for a kind of like switch out memory job bit is listed in the credits. I don't get it. But that's another rant for another day. But yeah, so what did you? With regards to the overall kind of like Flux thing and the story being told and this being the 3rd chapter, what were you? Do you know what's going on? Do you not know what's going on? Do you think you should know what's going on?
So we're at the midway point, and I still feel they've got time to answer the questions because we're at the midway point. Because I feel that to be honest, what was going on with the companions didn't really advance the story. It was more to give you, certainly for Vinder, it was more to give you backstory.
Yeah, for Vinder and Dan, you got a bit of that, I think.
Yeah, so you could make the argument that actually that was not wasted time, but do you know what I mean? That could have that may turn out to be, which we won't know until we've watched the 6th episode, but it might turn out to be time that could have been better spent elsewhere. Because the Vinder stuff, to be fair, with the Belle introduction, that's given that that those characters more weight. But to be honest, what happened to Vinder, you could have that could have been a conversation.
Yeah, Absolutely.
You could have done all of that in a conversation.
Yeah, and we didn't really need anything with Yaz because we know her background.
Yeah.
And also, again, someone just randomly broke my PlayStation by picking it up and slamming it on the floor. I would be more than, how am I gonna get good now? There would be fists flying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And in that same scene, she definitely looked away from that weeping angel for more than like 4 seconds.
Yes, I know. It was a good scene. I mean,
it was a good scene.
That was a good scene.
Yeah. It was good, and it kind of like built on some of the previous sort of Weeping Angel scenes because we've seen them come out of tellies before and stuff. So it was a good use of that, and it is interesting, especially with obviously next week's episode coming back to Claire, which we were talking about last week a little bit, and she obviously got taken by a Weeping Angel, so it does bring that thread back through to carry on into next week as well.
I purposely didn't watch the trailer for next week. I was able to.
Oh, sorry, mate.
It's all right. I kind of got the impression it was going to be Weeping Angels episode. So, but
a bit big as well as them taking control of the TARDIS, it stands to reason.
Yeah, exactly. Which was a cracking scene, actually.
Yeah,
I thought that was a cracking, proper scary. I thought that's a proper cliffhanger. That was. I like that.
Yeah, it's that thing of so I used to have a Doctor Who nightmare when I was a kid, and all the nightmare was I was in the TARDIS and something had got in. Because the TARDIS was a safe space, and like it might be a Dalek or Cybermen or whatever kind of thing, or even just a generic monster, but there was something in the TARDIS with me that shouldn't have been, and that kind of like that really shook me up. So that if I'd have seen this as a kid, that would have really wound me up. And in fact, the Doctor's face said it all to me.
Yeah. So I think in terms of like questions answered and stuff, I suppose now we've got a little bit more of an idea of how Swarm and Azure ended up imprisoned.
Yeah.
And what they were up to. I still find some of the kind of whole, the planet time and what they were doing there was a bit. I don't necessarily know if they really answered what they were actually doing there.
I think I roughly knew what was going on, but it wasn't clear. And again, that introduction of what was the character's name? Alsok apparently was the character's name, which again had to look up. So that was the little old woman who's like telling the Doctor to stop meddling, and this has all happened before, and it's going to happen again, and she can't stop it, and all that jazz. Which I wasn't sure if she's actually someone from the Division, or whether she's other Time Lord or some other being, like one of the Guardians or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I got an impression that either I don't think she's like the Black Guardian or something, because I don't know, I didn't get that vibe. But I did think maybe she's the person that runs the Division.
Yeah.
Because it's all tied up with that. So I would have felt it would have been someone closely linked to that. Otherwise, it's another story thread that you got to kind of pick up and run with.
Yeah.
And I quite like that scene. But again, it's that thing of there's a lot of he's spinning a lot of plates with this story. And
yeah, and more plates keep getting introduced, which is what worries me.
Yeah.
Because there were enough. Let's face it, there were enough in part 1.
Yeah. Because I think I've seen some criticisms where people are sort of saying what was great was that they trimmed down the companions, and now we're back up again. You can make the argument there's more companions.
Yeah, I was going to say we've got. I mean, I suppose they've dropped off Vinder now again, temporarily, because he's got his little communication box. But because we've got Yaz, we've got Dan, we've got Vinder. Effectively we've got they're going to find Claire, they're going to find Di at some point, presumably, or get her out of passenger or whatever somehow, kind of thing. So there are a lot of people here, and it's not necessarily even just companions, because I think for me in this kind of story where it is a 6-part thing like this, almost every character who is on the Doctor's side is almost in effect a companion.
Yeah.
So you actually, everyone there is effectively a companion, no matter whether they even Belle, although she was mainly used as in my eyes, a really good one, but as a kind of like just an insight into the world and stuff. But the fact that there was that very obvious connection of who she was looking for, that I'm bringing those two together as well. It's like well, clearly now you've got to pay that off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there are a lot of characters in this, despite the fact there are only really so far really 2 villains. I did quite like the fact that we'd seen the grumpy Scouser again, the tunnel digging Scouser.
Yes.
With Dan, and I did quite like. I quite liked him, and whatever he was fighting, and then you got these little time mites floating around and starting to still unpick things, and they're still a threat, even though things are technically back on track. I'm quite liking that. And they did, like, the first time I saw them, I was kind of like, I was sort of like, yeah, I don't know about that. You little glowing blue light things. But then actually, like in the tunnels and stuff, and when they were seen by other characters, I think it was the reactions, to be fair. It was the reactions people had to them. They did come over. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. And how do you stop them touching you? Because they're just like these little mites, basically. Yeah. So I could sort of get a sense of danger from them.
I like the old dude under the tunnels, which are called the Williamson tunnels, because actually it's a real thing.
Yeah.
But I get a sense that Dan's probably a much more important character than we think he is.
Yeah.
Because there seems to be, unless I'm missing something, there seemed to be some sort of connection between the two of them, and I don't really understand why they would have gone to the trouble of kidnapping Dan's, mate, would-be girlfriend or whatever, because he's a nobody.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well, because they were supposed to be in their own memories and their own timelines, and yeah, the doctor did say also your future sort of thing, I suppose. So it could be that he's just going to go in the future, but what? It was odd, just because it was Liverpool sort of thing. Why would Dan be there?
Yeah.
So there was a bit of that, and as I say, they did say it could be things that haven't happened yet, so maybe chapter 5 or whatever it will just be that will be the story. But it just seemed a bit, like you say, there seems to be more to Dan, I guess, and his importance because of, like you say, kidnapping Di. Otherwise, unless they just know that the Doctor's going to wind up with him as a companion, but
yeah, but again, it just doesn't.
No,
it doesn't. If you were going to do, if you were going to do that, if you're going to say we want to go and, I don't know, kidnap one of the Doctor's companions or someone close to a companion so we can use him as leverage, then he's going maybe kidnap Yaz's sister. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't, to me, the logic only kind of fits if you want to prevent Dan from doing something, maybe. That he's going to do. I don't know. And the fact that the other guy clearly seemed to, the architect guy clearly seemed to know Dan or have some idea of him anyway.
Yeah, and there was also that kind of thing of when you think about what had happened, like in the past. The Doctor basically almost unflinchingly watched 2 of those passenger things blow up.
Yeah.
With millions of people in, so from like Swarm's perspective of the Doctor, collateral damage isn't a problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like the ends justify the means almost in that regard, and you do need a bit of. So yeah, it's just there's got to be something more to it, as you say, I think.
Yeah. Did Swarm look different? In
the past, yeah, he was spikier and white, I thought.
Yeah.
He seemed very pale and a lot, bigger and spiky, and his voice was different as well.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if it was a case of because he'd been in prison for so long and blah blah blah, that's what he looks like now, but that was what he looked like back then. But I kind of felt that wasn't really. I had to make that leap. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, unless. Because I don't know if there's supposed to be a race and there's only maybe Swarm and Azure left, and it wasn't actually Swarm, it was a different one. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I thought it was supposed to be the same too.
Yeah,
but
if it's the same too, I didn't really understand.
Yeah,
why he looked different. It wasn't explained.
No, and sounded different. And again, I can't really tell you anything other than because the credits again, it's just got Swarm, Sam Spruill, but it could well have been because, as we said, it's not even got Bell in here or Vinda. It could have been anyone. Yeah. It was interesting. It was definitely not standalone. This episode, which I don't, as I say, I don't mind for Flux, because one thing I actually do want to do is when it comes out on Blu-ray, I kind of want to sit, or even after it's just all been out, I do want to sit down almost with a few cups of tea and just almost watch them through, back to back at some point, because I'm enjoying it, but I just think a second viewing of it, and especially with no gap in between, it might be kind of like, oh, I missed that before, and that kind of thing. And I do think there could be a lot of that in there, so that is something I do want to do.
Yeah, and I still, it sounds like I'm all about the negatives. I'm not, because overall I actually really enjoyed the episode, but I still hark back to one of my criticisms when we watched the first episode, in that you really needed to have watched the season finale of the previous season to understand what the division is.
Yeah, and it's more than that. You needed to have paid attention to it.
Yes,
because I watched it like 2 or 3 times overall, and I'd forgotten who the division was.
Yeah,
I hadn't even registered it. I was literally looking into things afterwards, kind of thing, like, going, oh yeah, okay, that was that, okay, and that was that. But you shouldn't really need to do that. I know it's it's like we're saying with Rise of Skywalker, where you literally had that line, somehow Palpatine's alive.
yeah.
And that thing of like that when the opening crawl, Palpatine has returned. He sent a message out, and it's like actually you had to play Fortnite to know what the message was. it's like it doesn't work for me, I'm afraid.
No,
No,
it needed, and I think we're 3 episodes in. It needed the confrontation, which is obviously coming between Yaz and the Doctor, where the Doctor's finally, I'm guessing, going to explain, about the division. Well, that's what she's trying to find out about and stuff. I kind of feel that we needed to have already had it, because I feel that would have been the perfect way to get, if you're a new person coming in who maybe didn't watch all of the last season or whatever, that's a perfect way to give you your in.
Yeah. And the other thing that is, and it's winding me up a little bit actually, is, and especially this episode, because it was like such a thing. It's like the Doctor goes like, I can't remember. It was towards the end of the episode, before they got into TARDIS, and she started to say something. Oh, what's it got to do with me? And then, we need to find out what it's got to do with me. And then Yaz is like, why would you think it's got anything to do with you? And she's like, shut up and get in the box.
Yeah,
pretty much. And it's like, hang on a minute. And where's this come from? And in the first episode as well, it's like, she had that snap moment of after she'd had like the vision where she first saw Swarm, and then she went to stick the helmet on her head and stuff, and then she just snapped at her for almost no reason. Not even like we'll talk about it later or something, like, or not now please, but a proper like just snap at her for no reason. And it feels like Chibnall's trying to set up a little bit of conflict between the two, but not really going about it very well, because it doesn't feel natural to me.
Yeah,
I mean, the reasons are right, but the actual interaction isn't working, if you know what I mean.
And I don't know, I feel like the way they've done Yaz's character through the sort of seasons, whatever, that's what I mean by they're building up to something. But I kind of feel that she would have cracked sooner, where she would be like, hang on, I'm not having this.
Yeah.
The way they've set her character up, that she doesn't really stand for like nonsense. And it almost would have been that scene where she's telling her to get into, just get in the TARDIS, which is almost like, no, because it's a quiet enough moment. They've effectively saved the day, as it were. And they're going back to the TARDIS. So that would almost have been the perfect time if she'd mouthed off, if the Doctor told her to get in the TARDIS, where she just went, I'm not going nowhere until you tell me what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Why are you behaving like this? Why were you, why have you been searching for Space Bungle? What's going on? Or when she was talking to Space Bungle, and I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2, take your pick really, they could have seeded a bit more about the division and about the fact that she's lost her memory, or she can't remember them.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I mean, I don't know how much Space Bungle knows about Time Lords and stuff, but that was him. I mean, he's credited as Carvanista in the plot, so it was the same Pari with Joe Martin as being with the Doctor now. So, but he's not really shown any recognition of knowing who or what the Doctor is particularly.
Yeah.
He's just been, we were introduced to him trying to kill her, for God's sake. It turns out he was on a squad.
So yes, good point.
Yeah, because I thought, oh, it's just another Luparian, it's the same dude playing him, so kind of thing. But in the credits, it is Carvanista.
But maybe something, I'm guessing something happens where she has to leave, because when we meet Ruth, who's the fugitive Doctor, she's on the run. She's being hunted. Yeah.
I mean, there was the thing in here of, this is the last mission that she's doing for the division, and she's free to go after this. And my kind of thing is, obviously they've got to. I was assuming she gets back. Division are like, ha ha ha, no, we're just going to wipe your memory, and she just escapes and then goes and beats Ruth.
Yeah,
was what I was thinking was probably the thing, but I said we don't know. Ruthless Doctor, that was it, not the angry Doctor.
Ruthless Doctor.
She was Ruth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, overall, I did enjoy the episode. I'm just interested to see how this episode is going to sit when we've seen all 6.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's one of those things of, because there's so much going on each week, it's hard to almost judge these things. Like last week, we could. But this was very much a kind of it was very much part of the whole kind of episode, and so it's almost hard to judge it without seeing everything in some ways.
Yeah.
It sounds like a cop out, but like you, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what we saw. Questions were asked, questions were not answered but progressed. So, and like you say, it is the halfway point. We're not at the end of Act 2. Even,
that's a good way to look at it, is that questions were progressed as opposed to answered, because I don't think we really got any answers, because I still don't really know, because that's the other thing, when it was sort of like, when it explained what passenger was, and it holds like it had all these millions of lives in each one, and was there 4 of them? I can't remember now.
So there was 3 we saw, I think. So we saw 2 get snuffed out, and then there was a 3rd one, and then obviously there's the one in the future as well.
Yeah. But that's a great idea, but I kind of felt that I needed to know who the hostages were.
Yeah.
And again, like, what were they doing?
Yeah.
What were they trying to stop? You take hostages because either you have demands or whatever.
Yeah.
But what your demands, what you trying to accomplish, and I think that was a bit I didn't quite. There was a lot of speechifying, but I didn't know if I actually quite got to the nitty gritty of.
Yeah, the actual whys.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. To me, it seemed like they were literally there for plot purposes.
Yeah.
And to look cool.
Yeah, and I think it would have been. Although to be fair, I think that would have been a step too far for a family show that you're watching with kids, where the bit where they showed in the future where they showed it die, and they sort of shown that they showed her inside.
Yes.
Traveler. It was like, help me, where am I? Blah blah blah. If you'd shown like an entire race of people screaming for help.
Yeah, like,
it would have given it a lot of weight, but obviously, it's a Sunday night. Yeah.
Having said that, though, in the first episode, you did see that load of aliens get wiped out literally on screen.
But it's just, it was, to me, it was, even if we'd heard screams, to me, it was just kind of like you just took out a robot. That it didn't have that sort of weight. The only reason it had weight was because we were told.
Yes.
We were told this thing holds millions of people, and we just got to accept it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that probably wraps us up, though. Really.
Yeah.
For this one. Good. So next week we've got some Weeping Angels, and we'll get back to Claire by the looks of it. So let us know your thoughts, everyone. And to do that, you can find us at, over to you.
You can find us at the Geeks at geeksyndicate.co.uk. We are on Twitter at Geek Syndicate. We're on Facebook, Geek Syndicate. Search for our private Facebook group and I'll let you in. And we're also on Instagram.
Excellent. And we will talk to you next time looking at Chapter 4 of Flux. So until then, thanks very much for listening and goodbye.
Cheerio.